There we go.
Okay, this is the October 18th, 2023 regular meeting of the Town of New Canaan's Police Commission. Our first order of business tonight is to review and approve the minutes from our prior meeting, which was held on September 20th. Does anyone have any comments?
I have no changes.
I have no changes.
I don't either. Gotta get a motion to approve the
Motion to
minutes. Second, all in favor? Okay, the minutes are approved. Thank you. Next order of business is the department monthly reports, chief.
First is our year-to-date budget. We are tracking a few things that are raising our attention, particularly over time. We're going to work the next week or so reviewing our overtime lines because we're preparing for next year's budget. We were way over budget on overtime last year. And we're trending that way again this year, so we need to look at what's going on. And I think we look at the staffing report that kind of tells the tale. You know, you look for at September 2023, 75% of the time they're working with a minimum shift.
Right.
Yeah. So that's, and then June 65% of the time, May 65% of the time. So we're working with low staffing levels, and I believe a lot of it had to do with a lot of the retirements and long-term injuries for supervisory positions, which are costly to us. So we're looking at it. We're going to address it as best we can. A lot of it is contractual, but we're anticipating a difficult budget cycle. But it's not good news.
Right. What's that salary, the salary offset of the negative 142?
Yeah, that was something that was designed to kind of show kind of an average year to year of when people retire and then get hired back on. There's a lapse, so we're never working. We budget for 47 sworn officers. We never actually work with that because of retirements and onboarding and offboarding. Right. So that was kind of a placeholder to show that salary never really gets eaten up. So it's we'll be in the numbers that we're not decided to play with. Yeah, the finance people agree with it, so it's still there.
Okay.
The aging looks to be fairly decent, not too bad. Look at the long term. Over 120 days is only 11,000. Everything else is less than 60 days. Usually with our big vendors, Eversource, Burns, whatnot, they're pretty good about paying up. False alarm. Those look really good for some reason. I don't know if those are zeroed out or something, but finance maybe zeroed some of those out, but those are looking very, very good. So
Yeah, it just looked like there was a couple of chunky ones
for
like Le Pen, some of the for false alarms. That kind of stuff.
yeah, and those are over 120.
Yeah,
days,
so
those
they're
are
probably not.
historically
We're not
ones that were years ago
should
that
be cleaned up.
yeah. But anything less than that looks like it's all been zeroed out. So,
Yep.
which is good.
Good.
And that's all I have for reports.
Okay, thank you, chief. Our first topic for discussion is the Conrad Road update. Deputy Chief Walsh, are you going to give us a report on that? How are we going to proceed?
I would open it up to public comment.
Okay. Okay. Are there any members of the public here to discuss the Conrad Road situation?
Pretty much all of us. We were just wondering.
Would you state your name, please?
And if we could keep
so
it kind of a couple
Yeah,
minutes.
Yeah.
move it along.
Yeah.
Correct.
Otherwise,
So we're wondering if you could tell us what you got from studies first and what you proposed before you opened up to us. We were hopeful that you came up with a resolution before we continued, because we sent countless emails and links and solutions, and we've gotten nothing back from you guys yet.
excuse me,
Sure.
that's not quite true. You can't say you've got nothing back from
So
us,
thank you for
okay?
the.
All right,
very stop
because you're
signs.
taking,
They
excuse me,
are
you're,
helpful.
excuse me, but you are taking up, you know, a lot of their time, and we're very sensitive to that, and we want to try to get to this solution, we really do. But to sit there and say we haven't heard anything from us, is just, I just gotta put
I
a
mean,
tamper
for
on
the
that.
studies. if I
Okay,
can Correct myself.
thank you,
So there were studies that were done, and we haven't heard back about the study.
okay,
So about roundabout studies and about the speeding, we have centuries that are still up there now. So if you could just comment on.
Sure, I can tell you about
Tiger,
the actual, the counters that are up now. They're more there now for your help with the speed issue than to collect numbers. We already know that you have a volume issue there. Like I've said to you guys, you know, a bunch of times, we get it. You know, last meeting we were here, every time I've talked to you guys, we understand that it's a high volume issue. That your road, it's a narrow road. It shouldn't be used as a cut through for that much traffic. Totally understand. And there's a number of things that we can look at for engineering, but I would have to talk to Tiger and let him discuss as what the engineers think.
Committee members, I'll keep it brief. I just wanted to say a couple things. My name's Mike Nersey. I live at 41 Conrad Road. I've been there since 2012. I'm on the roads all the time. I'm a road runner, I'm a dog walker, and when I say I've walked thousands of miles on the streets, I have, literally. And over the course of that time, I've seen the volume go up, the speeds go up. And I think I'm pretty in tune with what a safe street is for pedestrians, just from my lifetime of being out there. And it definitely feels unsafe. And so what I think is obvious is that some remediation of some kind should take place. I don't know what it will be. If just as an individual, my vote is to cut off access to Gertie's with Conrad. It would solve it as a cut through street. It would solve the speed issues. It would solve the volume issues. Obviously, that's not going to be a solution for everybody. That is a complex system. You make a change, there's going to be unanticipated consequences to that. Not everybody's going to be on board, but it's something you can test cheap, quickly. You could just temporarily blockade that road and then study it and see what happens. And if it is a solution that works for everybody, then you have your solution. You did it easy. But so that's what I would vote for. But what I see every day is that it's an unsafe environment, both at day and night. You know, over a long enough time frame, there's going to be some kind of tragedy. And I'm particularly sensitive to this from my nature of just being out on the roads all the time. Where I live is where I live, but right in the middle of Conrad Road. And it's my profession too, because I'm one of the people that they call together people who are injured in those kind of accidents. And I think most of the people here, professionals, know the data from the National Highway Traffic Safety Institute, which shows about a threefold increase in mortality and morbidity, going from about 25 miles an hour to 35 miles an hour. And, you know, I think we should also be informed and maybe a little warned by the recent experience in Stamford with Reverend Jackson, if anyone's familiar with that story, who died crossing the street now. And I'm reminding you guys that half of us have to cross our street to get our mail, with cars going 35, 38, 40 miles an hour on a road that was never intended for that. Now, the merit was never intended for the speed and the volume that it has now. They widened it, they straightened it, they flattened it, they made on-ramps, they made it safer. So we change in response to changing conditions. We knew what the nature of the street is when we moved in. That's, you know, we knew this when we bought our houses. So to some extent, we have to accept what it is. But things are different. And I think that we change in response to changing conditions. So I think something should be done. That's my vote. I think it should be at least studied, and I take the time.
thank you.
And we
Thank you.
certainly understand and sympathize, and we are in agreement with almost everything that you did say, and we understand that. And that is one of the solutions that we've looked at closely. And we are looking at what are the ramifications of that going to be, that we have to consider that. Yes, it would solve the problem for the 15 or so residents on Conrad. But that traffic is gonna go somewhere, so we have to consider that as well. That
Right.
traffic will stay on Gertie's, or it might go up Shagbark, or it may go up Brookside. So it's not gonna go back on Merritt Parkway, so we have to consider that. And what is gonna be the negative effect of that. So it's something that we are considering, and it does seem like a viable solution. And it would certainly solve the issue on Conrad. But it would create issues elsewhere. So we are looking at it. It's definitely not off the table. But we hopefully will consider something in the very, very near future, but it's something that we need to consider all of the surrounding impacts, not just for this context.
Yes, sir.
Derek Bennett, just a minor suggestion with this. If you had a designation for streets as busy thoroughfares. Anything that's a busy thoroughfare and also a residential street would be up for traffic calming measures. Put in traffic calming measures that would have the side effect of putting back pressure against whatever outer traffic into those thoroughfares.
Okay. Should go from Tiger. Let's hear from Tiger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Tiger has
Tiger's on.
some, yeah, Tiger has some points about the engineer.
Okay, why don't we finish hearing from,
He may
Folks
answer
who
some of their
come.
questions first. but-
One thing I can say is the traffic engineer and Tiger will discuss more about this because he's not in the room. They are studying the area, not only the placement of a possible roundabout. But also they were studying the traffic light at Gertie's in South Avenue. And they found that traffic light was just on auto cycle, which means it would give a designated time for South Avenue and a designated time for Gertie's Road. But there is a traffic sensing camera there that picks up where there is traffic. So if there's no traffic on South Avenue, it would still cycle and give the green light to South Avenue. They've told us that they've since corrected that. So there may be some benefit to the area as far as traffic and the cycling of light that just occurred within the last week. And we're not certain that the state actually did that, so we're gonna test and get our feedback from the traffic engineers to ensure that did occur and see if there's any improvement. It's not gonna solve the problem, but it might improve things slightly. Tiger can discuss what else he's heard back from the engineers. Tiger, are you on?
I am. I didn't know if there was anyone else in the room that wanted to ask a question before I.
yeah, sure. Anyone else like to speak?
Yeah, would I like at some point?
What is your name, please?
My name is Janelle Sinacori. I also live on Conrad. In regards to your comment about the timing, so this morning I counted like 42 cars in 5 minutes at 7:55. And yesterday also very similar numbers.
On Conrad?
Mhm.
No, what I was talking about was timing was the Gertie's traffic light, the Gertie's in South Avenue
So
traffic.
what happens is soon as Gertie's backs up to just about Conrad is when you see the cars coming through. So
And as I said,
Gertie's
it's not gonna
was-
solve the problem. I know it's not gonna solve the volume problem, but it may improve throughout a 24-hour cycle, the cycling of that light. The traffic engineers noticed that it wasn't working on the traffic cameras. It was just cycling as a routine time for each side. So it's again, I said, it's not gonna solve your problem on Conrad. We know that, but it may improve the overall cycling of that light.
I will check it out. It wasn't obvious in the last 2 days there was any change. And then the other thing with the speeding, so I know we've had 4 speed studies done, and I just wanted to point out that at least in 3 of the recent speed studies, one of the sentries was like 30 feet from a stop sign. So technically, if stop signs work, you should never pick up speeding with the speed sentry 30 feet from a stop sign. So I just wanted to keep that in mind when you're looking at it, if there is no speeding. I mean, part of it is. because of
Placement of
where
the sign is
placed.
from, yeah.
And we are doing multiple
Multiple locations, yes.
multiple locations and you have to understand, we're working with people that put those up for us and they may not understand exactly the nature of what we're looking for. So sometimes they go out there, they're not in the exact location that we want them, so we have to direct them to move them. And then it is technical equipment and that sometimes the batteries don't work for the full week. So we are dealing with some technical issues on that side of the things. I do apologize. I know that sounds like a bit of a cop out, but you know, we
It
are
is.
trying to get it, in the right place. And it's hard. This is a nuanced conversation that the people that are deploying them aren't privy to, so they might not understand exactly what we're looking for. They might just put them up where they think they should go, and they're not, they're not picking up the right feedback. So that's why you'll see them out there continually week after week, because we're trying to fine tune exactly and get good data, not just any data. And we want to make decisions on good data, not just kind of arbitrary data.
The readings from this past week show, like I said, it's more of a awareness for drivers and safety for you guys at this point. There's some technical issues with the signs themselves as well, as Mary and I could tell you. So we've been going back and forth, and unfortunately, it wasn't working this past week as much as we would like to really get the data to record it and analyze it. I'm not going to give you bad data. So, you know, that's what the situation is with that issue. But we're hopeful to get that situation fixed within the next week or two and get some more data. But again, the data we already know is there. We already recognize there's a problem behind there. So we do recognize that. As I said, you know, I can tell you guys, I firmly understand that, and so does Tiger, and so does the chief.
And I want to reiterate too, this is an utmost priority for us. I don't want to think that we're slow playing this or anything like that. This is the highest priority as far as traffic concerns for us that we're dealing with, and we're working on it daily to try to get good data and make good decisions about it.
Yeah, I'm just surprised that you're not seeing more of the speed, because when you stand there and when you drive up and down the road, like, and you try and follow the other cars to see how fast you're going.
Please don't do that.
Yeah. It feels like there's a lot of people going pretty fast. Maybe partially it's the nature of the road,
Sure.
because it's narrow, because it has a bend, because it has a turn.
And then that's why we need good
It
data,
has
because perception is different than reality, and you certainly will perceive that it feels like the cars are going fast because it's a small road and you're there with the kids at the bus stop, and that's very valid, and that's part of the decision-making process. But we also need data to show how fast are the cars going. And we do see some issues, obviously not at the height of the traffic volume problem, but later on in the day when there's not that volume of traffic there going in the other directions, we do see some issues. So, and I was discussing with Deputy Chief Walsh today, it's almost like there's two issues. One, the volume issue, and then there's the speed issue on the other times of the day. So we kind of have to approach our solutions looking at both of the problems. And one solution may fix one problem, but not the other, or have negative effects or no effect on the other problem. So that's compounding the difficulty of finding a good solution for this. So we are looking at it and trying to decide what problems there are, when they are, and how to resolve.
Are the speed studies blinded, meaning those speed monitors obviously alter people's behavior? So when they're studying speed,
We've
is
done it
it,
blind as well.
it's blind,
We've
okay.
done both.
And they do pick up the person's speed prior to displaying. So it does measure the effectiveness of the sign. That's how it can measure. So it will pick up the person's speed, flash their sign, and see if they decrease in speed. So, but we have put them out there totally blank as well, just to get raw.
Right.
So,
Right, yeah.
Would anyone else like to speak?
Yes, Mariana Oserik, 25 Conrad Road, in that last meeting. So I just want to back up about the speed in the afternoon. What happened? My son just started riding his bike. He's 4 years old. And we're going down the Conrad inside the neighborhood, very safer, and there is sidewalks. By the time you get down the Conrad Hill, you have at least 2 cars per minute. And I see the speed sentries is there. And its average speed limit is 35 that they're driving. So 35 for residential street, narrow street with kids, multiple kids, is very, very dangerous. And you're talking about the police 2 cars every minute in one direction, not to mention the other. So yes, there is very.
No, we're aware of that, yeah.
Yeah.
We agree with that, yeah. And we are also, not to get ahead of ourselves, we are supportive of sidewalks in the neighborhood as well on Conrad. We think that would be a good thing, but obviously that's a large capital item that will take time. It's a major project, but I believe that, I don't want to speak for Tiger, but I believe he's in support of it as well, because I will tie the whole neighborhood into South Avenue and be able to walk up to the schools and whatnot. So we are supportive of that as well, but that's, again,
That's my
A
kids
long
are gonna
term.
be in high school. but-
Yeah. I'll be retired, but
Is a temporary road closure an option?
is.
Because again, it's reversible, simple.
as I said, it is, but not tonight. We need to look at it closer.
Right.
It isn't something that we can haphazardly just throw out there because it does have impact. We are impacting traffic.
Yeah.
So we are responsible for that. We are liable for that. So if it does create an accident, we are liable for that. So we need to proceed cautiously, but it is something that we are considering. It is one of the top things that we are considering, among other things. So, we are looking at that, yes.
I saw in Darien, with like safety bollards in the middle of the road with slow,
Yeah.
it says slow on them. It's like a traffic cone and it shines in the dark too. So is that something like an option? to put
I
it wrong?
think we had those over by the Silvermine Park Field years ago, and what happens with the kids, they think they're, it's part of practice. It turns into a more dangerous, they get wiped out. You can see, even here on South Avenue, a lot of the pedestrian crosswalk signs that are in the middle of the road. Take a look at them. They've been run over multiple times, either by accident or on purpose, so. Those are something that we can consider, but sometimes it has a negative effect.
Chief,
Millie Rolla, I'm at 92 Conrad Road, right on the bend. When you enter from Gertie's, I'm on the bend on the right side, and I have the temporary stop sign right by my driveway, and I'll tell you, that one's been hit multiple times. Also, I think temporary stop signs, people, drivers know this is an experiment, they don't take them as seriously as for permanent signs, I've noticed that. I don't know about traffic circles much, except that the plan that I saw had yield signs, 3 yield signs. I personally don't think that yield is going to stop people. Perhaps if they consider that option to put 3 stop signs. There's already
That's not
one.
appropriate for a traffic
not
circle.
appropriate.
So a traffic circle is to keep traffic moving, but not in a straight line. So it does slow them down by the nature of it being a circle. So you don't put up stop signs at a traffic circle. That's not.
Well,
That's not a
there's
problem.
on Marvin Ridge, used to live on Willowbrook Lane. And it's not exactly a circle, but on Marvin Ridge and Norwalk Road, there's,
That's a divider island.
it's a divider.
That's
That's
not, yeah, that's
I mean,
not,
it still has 3 streets coming.
yeah, but that's not the same thing.
It's not a rotary, it's not a roundabout. It's
A
just a
rotary-
traffic count.
It is designed to keep traffic flowing at a slow pace.
Or
So
maybe no island, 3,000.
yeah, that's could be, yeah,
Sometimes what would really, I think, slow down the traffic. I think yield is like,
You don't understand.
yeah. Tiger, do you want to step in?
Yeah,
Do we
That
hear,
would be-
is there any- before you do, Tiger, is there anyone else who is here to speak?
I just wanted to talk to the circle. So if we do consider a circle that things are gonna slow around that circle, what happens after that circle until
Right.
we get to South Avenue?
Right,
That's the problem.
right. And that's.
the thought there is that you have the traffic, that you have the mini roundabout. Roundabouts by their nature are yield controlled, they're not stop controlled. So it's designed to flow traffic around the circle. The circle slows the speed as it goes around. We're not gonna put up something that's just white paint on the ground. It would be very, very aesthetically pleasing. It would be our first in town, so it has to be perfect. If it's not perfect, we're not gonna do it. So, because then that would preclude us from doing it anywhere else, and they're a proven traffic calming measure. So as far as a mini roundabout goes, right now it's being studied. I can tell you that the studies don't happen overnight. Okay, then it's not a question that they can go out there over the day and then give me a report the next day. It doesn't necessarily work that way. The roundabout's being designed, so that takes actually longer. We already did a preliminary study on the roundabout, said that the roundabout would probably be the best alternative at that location instead of 3 stop signs or what have you, or a reduced necking of Whiffletree. So we're on our second phase of that work already. Now they're working on the preliminary design of it to make sure that it'll fit and what it'll look like before we move to a final design. And we'll come back before that. So they've got a little bit more work to do on that. But the thought is to slow the traffic down around the circle. And then the segmental length has changed now because we're not starting at Gertie's and traveling through the intersection, cruising through the intersection. We're actually starting now at Whiffletree and going to South Avenue. So the segmental speed will slow because they won't be able to A, accelerate as fast, nor B, will they want to accelerate as fast. So therefore, the segmental speed will change and actually reduce. That's the overall thought. Again, we're still looking at it, but you know, I talked to the traffic engineer again today. I've had multiple conversations with him over the past couple of weeks. And just so you understand, they actually started working on it prior to Board of Selectmen approval and prior to getting a purchase order or contract signed. I had them out working prior to it, knowing that it was very, very important to this community. So we had them working on it. They've been working on it. And with that, on the traffic signal side, they actually were able to come back with some positive feedback. It took 3 times for us to contact the state for them to actually come out and say that they were going to put out a 360-degree camera that the chief mentioned. That went out last week. The programming happened today, or was supposed to happen today, meaning that the signal went out and then they were going to reprogram it. I have to verify with them that the reprogramming has occurred. We told them what our traffic engineer had seen as far as the timing goes and as far as how the timing was shared between South Avenue and Gertie's. There's a minimum and maximum for both sides. Obviously, South Avenue gets the maximum, but you know, the most time, and Gertie's would get lesser time. But with this camera, it would actually start to trade time back and forth between the two. And we gave them what our traffic engineer had noticed as far as how the timing is working from a preliminary standpoint. They, as of today, they told me that the report would be finalized hopefully by the end of the week, early next week. And then we're going to forward that to the state, and hopefully that will drive future programming of the light. But again, they haven't reprogrammed it yet. It's supposed to happen today. I'll confirm that. The moment it's confirmed, I'll send our traffic engineer back out again to make sure that it's programmed the way that they said it was going to be programmed and how it's functioning, and if it needs to be tweaked even further. Our thought is that that's going to help. There's about 36 cycles per hour of that light. And just rudimentary math, they're thinking that they can get at least 5 cars through the cycle more from Gertie's. That's over 150 cars, 180 cars that could pass through that intersection in an hour, which would then definitely help the volume that's on Conrad. So the overall thought is to keep more on Gertie's than on Conrad. To answer the question about whether or not we should close off a road, we did look at closing off Conrad at Gertie's, and we also looked at closing off Conrad at Whiffletree, because there's 2 different options there. One, if we close it off Conrad at Gertie's, we're afraid, as the chief mentioned, that we're just going to push traffic to Shagbark, which will then push it through the community and then still come back out at Conrad. So we wouldn't even be reducing the traffic volume in Conrad. They would just find a different route to get to Conrad, because the distances aren't that much greater, and Waze will just force you through that, and we'll just be forcing through a different location and then having exacerbating problems on Shagbark, Butler, because you can imagine, you get to Shagbark, Butler, Whiffletree, you're back to Conrad immediately. Okay, so that's a problem. If we stop it, if we close it off Conrad at Whiffletree, I've got a problem after meeting with Roy Walder from the high school, from the schools, in that's his route for buses. 1, he's got to get the door on the correct side. 2, he's got to be able to get through the community. He goes up Gertie's, down South, down Conrad, and then back into the community. So if we cut that off, he won't be able to then get back into the community and get back out again. So his routes completely change. So it's not just one aspect. We've got to look at multiple aspects as to what we would do if we decided to do one or the other. So we're still looking at it, as the chief mentioned. Everything's still on the table. We haven't taken anything off the table. I even asked the traffic engineer what would be the ramifications of us doing that, so that they could look at it as well, saying that, we're getting to draconian measures, I'll call it, but we're looking at those as well. But overall, we appreciate your patience. We appreciate your cooperation. We're spending an inordinate amount of time on this one specific option. I'm at, $50,000 or more at present, just studying it, which is probably more than we spent on any other road in town to date. Um, as far as a sidewalk goes, yes, that's an option. Will it happen before your kid's in high school and before John retires? Absolutely. If they decide to do it, we could have that happen. It's just a question of it has to make it through the budget cycle and then it has to, be funded. But in a situation such as this, whereby it's the only road in that community behind the Y that doesn't have a sidewalk, it's right for one. So I could see that being funded, and every council member is aware of the situation here, as are the Board of Selectmen and probably members of the Board of Finance. So at that point in time, when it comes to them coming this budget cycle, starting in November, we could see that rolling through. And then the design is relatively easy on the area. It's a flat road. It's a flat area. The right of way is pretty wide open. There's not much going on there as far as that goes. And the construction is relatively easy. We're already looking at constructing new sidewalks in the Putnam Road area, behind the Y next year. So to add this portion wouldn't be that much greater. So again, we appreciate your patience. We appreciate your cooperation. We haven't put it aside. We're working on it every single day. It's just, and I've got my highway department considering it. I got my engineering department considering it. You've got multiple members of the police department, working on it. And I've got a consultant working on it as well. So, we just,
Hey, Tiger, it's Paul. Hey, when I was down there observing it, it looked like the traffic was coming from West Norwalk Road, right?
They're
coming.
they're
across.
looking at coming in from Norwalk. That's correct.
Is there any way of, rerouting the traffic before it gets to Gertie's?
The traffic engineer, I talked to him today about that because he drove it. He actually was forced off that way one time coming in the opposite direction. So he drove that Waze forced him to go that way in an opposite direction, believe it or not, because there was a tree trimming company on the Merritt. So he's done it both ways. And there's not much of an option as we get further to the other side, past White Oak Shade and then into Norwalk to try to then say, because he noticed that the majority of it was coming up from Norwalk, left-hand turn onto Gertie's and in, not necessarily coming from Nursery and around. But there's not much of an option on the other side for us there. But they are looking at that as well, trying to see, is the mini roundabout the solution for everything? Is it a solution for one, not all? And then what do we do with this volume problem? With the volume problem is very, very problematic. I can be perfectly honest with you because it's anything we do in your area pushes it's going to push us somewhere else. And I don't mean that. I don't say that lightly. Just to say, oh, you've got to live with it. We're not looking at that. We're trying to see what solution we can come up with, even to the point of telling the DOT to stop putting people off the Merritt. And stop telling Waze to push people off the Merritt and keep them on the Merritt.
Right. Stop it before it even gets to Gertie's.
Exactly. The fact that they push them off the Merritt and then force it into the local municipality and have the local municipality work through it is ridiculous in my point of view. Why we're spending, tens of thousands of dollars to solve a problem that they in essence created. Right. But
I came up from Home Depot the other day and it sent me down Conrad, Gertie's to Conrad.
Right.
In the middle of the day.
Right. So, the overall, I believe that putting in the mini roundabout is people aren't going to want to drive through it on a daily basis. They're not going to want to go through that section. So they're going to want to stay on Gertie. So you're going to say, I'm not going to drive around this. As far as the bollards go in the middle of the road, the chief was right. We had that in the Silvermine area and the kids just love to go down. And we had them in the Silvermine area. We actually had them on Elm Street as well. And the kids just like to drive down it and hear them thump underneath the car because they'll thump underneath the car and then come back up again. And after about 6 months, they were all severed. So they didn't necessarily do what they were supposed to do because they just wound up being a way for kids to drive faster and hit them. So that's not necessarily an option. The temporary stop signs are working to a degree. I don't think that they're the end all to be all in that regard. I think that something of a traffic calming measure in the middle of the street, be it a mini roundabout or something like that, will definitely slow speeds and help us. But let us get through the preliminary design and then we can come back and meet with everyone, show you exactly what it's going to look like, what it's going to be constructed of. And then let the traffic engineer speak as to what he thinks as to what it will solve and what it won't, what it'll help and what it won't. And then we can then move forward from there. Excuse me.
I want to reiterate my point about this test of the closure. We're all making presumptions that traffic will be diverted and go to a different route. We're all assuming that to be the case. Couple things, we will never understand nor be able to influence the Waze algorithm. So we can't know, and we presume, we do not know what will happen, but you have a perfect test. You can close that road and know exactly what will happen in a way that other surrogates won't tell you, like you can put a stop sign in the middle of the road, but that's not a true replacement for a true stop sign, that's just the point as you made, or a stoplight. So they're not true tests, but this is a true test that will let you know. So my point was
It's not
not
off
that
the
this
table.
might not help, but that we can know.
Yeah,
So
it's
why
not off
don't
the, it's not off the table. I just,
But they haven't talked about it. They're not saying they're gonna do it. They're saying, we assume it's gonna shift the
No, no, no.
traffic, so we're not. even-
I did
That's
address
the-
that.
that's
We
the
are
message,
considering it,
yeah.
and I told you that we are considering it. And it is something.
I said as well that all options are still on the table. We haven't changed.
Yeah, it is something that we are considering, but we are, you know, it will give us direct feedback. And it may be an issue where it creates the situation and makes it worse on Gerties for a period of time. And then eventually Waze's algorithms catch up to that and say, this is not worth it. We're gonna send people down Brookside, or the traffic is gonna go somewhere. We are certain of that. It will go somewhere. It's like,
Right, Art.
gonna stop. It's gonna go somewhere. We just have to, you know, make it as educated a guess as to where it's gonna go and not make the situation worse or more dangerous.
Right, our next step is to see exactly what happens with this redo of the timing at the signal. If the redo of the timing at the signal does exactly what it's supposed to do, which we're hoping, then we should see a very big reduction in volume on Gerties. If it doesn't, then we can go back and tell them, hey, you need to change the timing and go from there. Again, we're trying to look at low cost, lower draconian measures as far as what we can do to try to solve the situation with what's existing, you know, our existing infrastructure before we close off a road or do other things, even put in a mini roundabout. If I can solve the problems with just a change in the traffic light and the timing of the traffic light, then that's a win for all, for the taxpayer as well. So we are looking at, we haven't taken anything off the table, as the chief mentioned. I haven't taken anything off the table. My highway superintendent was the one who suggested, you know, to me to close Conrad. So, you know, we haven't taken anything off the table. We're just worried that if we do force it someplace else, and God forbid something happens on that other road, as the chief mentioned, we've created that issue. Now we own that issue. So right now we don't own an issue at present. We're trying to fix the issue that's been given to us. We do appreciate your patience and cooperation, but we're working towards it. We haven't taken anything off the table.
Hey, Tiger, have they thought about striping, like white stripes down the sides of the road to make it at least here narrow?
I can tell you that we got a good email the other day. The deputy chief was telling me that we did it on Silvermine, and from people that were adamantly opposed to striping on Silvermine because they were afraid originally that they were going to see their property values decrease, which we have never seen. And it's never been proven as to a decrease in property values. And the one champion of not striping is actually now a champion of the fact of what he's seen from putting a double yellow and then subsequently putting down two edge lines, whereby speeds have been calmed down. They were actually now more cognizant of pedestrians walking on the shoulders because of the striping. And there we striped it at 210s. It's a 20-foot road. We striped it at 210s. It ranges from 20 to 22, I believe. And we striped it at 2 10-foot lanes, and they've seen a good response from drivers of the area. So I know the deputy chief can mention it more, but that was what we noticed in an email just recently.
So I've seen it done out in Colorado, and where it was actually overly closed, if you will, so that the sides were very wide, like on both sides for bikes and people walking. But it really made it real tight for two-lane traffic, which forced people to really slow down.
The problem is Conrad is not wide enough to do that.
And you don't have a center
lines,
lane.
they would be.
It would almost make it a one lane. Right.
Well, we couldn't do it very wide. We could do it like I said, we could do 2 9s at 18 feet, right? Right now she's 20 feet wide. So we could get 1 foot on either side, one shoulder in, which is actually probably better than what the striping is at Silvermine. Because the Silvermine is really right on the edge of the road. This would be 1 foot in. You'd have an 18-foot wide double lane, and I would believe that based upon the studies, you would see a reduction in speed. Like I said, 2 to 3 miles per hour. That's what we saw on Main Street. We're probably going to see the exact same thing if we go back and study Silvermine. We'll probably see the exact same thing on Silvermine.
How about if you put, like real obstacle in the road, like a speed hump?
It again,
Speed humps.
those have negative effects as well, like you were saying, you know, when people go around the roundabout, then what happens after? Same thing, speed hump,
That's one.
they're gonna make up their time in between the speed humps, and then you're also gonna have more noise pollution, because every bus, FedEx truck, UPS truck, it goes down, slows down, then accelerates after it. So it's, and then it also, obviously, living in New England, it causes the problem with road, clearing with snow and wear and tear
That
on the
the,
vehicles.
the traffic circle, that's
Right.
supposed to slow people down. What happens on that, the rest of the segment, once they're
So,
enjoying?
well, like
they
Tiger said, the
slow down.
hope is that they don't have that momentum. But that is something that we have to consider, and the traffic engineers consider is, do people make up that
Yeah.
lost time for going
But
around.
right now.
But the idea
there's
behind, the original idea behind the traffic circle was to make it so it, again, to affect Waze's algorithm and to have people not want to go on time again and slow
It's
people
not
down.
something that's typically put into waves. You see traffic circle ahead.
I don't know, I can't speak to. the
Has
effect.
anybody?
No,
seen it?
you know.
Don't know.
I don't think we're getting traffic circle complete. We're not.
No, it's not getting the traffic circle, it's creating not such an easy cut through. Is what the effect is, and again, I don't know if that's the answer, and I agree with you, that may not be the correct answer. Correct answer might be blocking it off the curves. We have to look at all things and consider what might be the most effective.
Did we talk about essentially having a no through traffic from 7 to 9 like Nursery Road
Yes,
does?
the problem is that that's unenforceable.
Right,
Yeah,
there's,
you know, but maybe Waze does.
That is something that
know
we,
that sign
yeah,
is
that is something that
wonder.
we're considering, but it is, according to our standard manual, the MUTCD, it's unenforceable, so you
Right.
could do it, but you can't enforce it.
it's according to the manual on uniform traffic control devices, as John mentioned. That's our standard. That's what the police commission has adopted as our standard. That's a national standard. There is no sign, no through traffic. There is a no through truck designation that has to come from the Office of the State Traffic Authority. That's different. The LTA, the Legal Traffic Authority, which is the police commission, can ask that designation from them. They might grant it, they might not. But a no through traffic sign, there is no such thing as a no through traffic sign. People create them. That's correct. But since it's not in the MUTCD and it is not an approved sign, it is not enforceable. So therefore, we prefer not to put up a sign that is not enforceable. We don't want to put up something that, you know, it's the same thing as we're not allowed to put up a camera that actually doesn't film, like a blank camera, right? That's dead, that just doesn't work. That's from a municipal standpoint, we're not allowed to do that. You have to put up a camera that actually works. So we can't put up a sign that necessarily is not enforceable for the exact same reasons. So you might have seen them, but they're not an approved sign through the manual or elsewhere. So that's our problem.
Tiger,
Okay.
Shakeba Bennett here. I have a question for you. Is there anything you can put up that makes the traffic in ways not go through Conrad? Like it's something immediate that at least the neighborhood has something right now until the mini rotary goes in? Because what are we looking at the timeline for the mini rotary? How many months are we talking about?
Well, we're looking at least another week or two before I get a preliminary design back, and we've got to work through that process. In essence, we might be pushing time on the calendar per se. Is there anything that we can put up on a temporary basis? It's very difficult. I can't really create a chicane, you know, which would be an S turn through it's a very short road. It makes it a little difficult. It'd be hard to do something of that nature. We can certainly ask our consultant for additional ideas. The only other alternative would be, instead of a chicane, it would be a narrowing, you know, a subsequent narrowing in the middle of the road, but it's a temporary measure at best.
I think the quickest thing that we could do, if we do it, is putting up barricades at Conrad and Gertz. I don't, and I think that would quickly affect Waze. And again, I tried this with Nursery Road to log into Waze and modify the map and say, no through traffic, but it's sort of, I believe it's done through crowdsourcing. So I'm just one input. So if
Right, if everybody else is going through it, does.
it will take an effect. If just one person puts it in, because we kind of do that sometimes. We just say, police are here, police are here, and it doesn't believe us, so, but, so, I think if we're looking for a quick fix,
Yeah,
it
something
might
that's
be-
quick fix, while they're waiting for the mini rotary to be put in. I mean,
but,
we're
but,
talking
but
a couple of
as
months.
we discussed, we
Yeah.
want to be careful with quick fixes because we're responsible for that. Whatever quick fix we do, we're responsible for the results of that, so.
Can you do the road closure just for 6:30 to 8:30, something like that?
That makes it even more complex, because is it open, is it not? Can I go through here, can I not? Oh, I thought it was open and I crashed into your barricades,
Right.
because they were there this morning, but they're not now, and now they are, and I went through here last night, they weren't here, and now I'm going to work at 6 o'clock in the morning. And they're here, and I didn't see them, and now I crashed in,
All right,
so,
all right, come down Conrad, and now I hit that barrier. Now I gotta back up, turn around, and it's creating another mess. Going back up.
yes, now. you
Now
live
we-
at
now we're
that
turning around your
end,
driveways.
now Cars are gonna be backing up onto your lawn,
Right,
doesn't.
Well, they didn't
down
know it
there,
was there,
the
right.
Afternoon traffic that's coming through now gets there and can't get through, so now they have to turn around and. Now they're lost a lot of time, so now they're gonna had to go around to get back onto Gertz, so
I don't know.
there's a lot to consider. It's not just put them up and be done with it.
It would have to be a long test, because people that do adapt, but it takes time.
Right,
So there's always gonna be people that go down,
so I
realize
think,
it's a mistake,
you
and
said you
turn
lived
around, but that number will go down a lot.
Right at the bend.
so there would have to be a big do not enter sign right there, kind of where the stop sign is now, and have to face the other way saying, don't go here because.
You have to have a sign on south.
Or like,
They-
dead end, kind of, no, that's it.
Yeah, it would be a dead end, do not enter, so there's, there's a lot to consider. But we do have another, the rest of the agenda to go, so if we could wrap this up, final comments?
Sorry, I just wanted to make one comment and then ask one question. So I think one thing I noticed with Gertie's is windy and it's sloped up a hill on the side. So I think just the nature of the road forces people to drive slow because it comes, and it goes like this.
Right.
Where Conrad is open and it's very flat.
Sure.
And if you look at my lawn and Millie's lawn, the edge of my lawn is already gone. So I don't think the white striping is gonna help because people are already all over the lawns, and because it's so open and flat, I think it just kind of lends itself more to speeding because it's not as curvy as Gertie's.
And that's why we said that the striping is not appropriate
And
because
then
the road.
I
closure
have
is
one
so-
question. Tiger, you mentioned the light timing. Did you say with the new timing, it will enable a maximum of 180 vehicles to cross at Gertie's? Or is it 180?
No, you're missing, no, in total, the way, right now, the way we're trying to look at tweaking the timing. Okay, there's 100 seconds in the overall timing, right? To make it through the entire cycle through, right? That's consider red time, yellow time, green time for both legs. And then problem two is that it's tied in with the opposite signal on the northbound side. Okay, so they're tied together. So you have to look at them as a unit. It's not in one shot you get 180 cars through. No, we're hoping that in a complete hour we can get 180 or more through just by a short 10-second time frame difference between what they have now and what we're proposing or more. So that even if we said don't give the maximum to South Avenue, give the minimum to South Avenue, and take that 10-second difference and give it to Gertie's, over an hour, we're going to get 180 cars plus. Now the thought is with this camera, we can actually tweak.
I know where
it
you're going, I'm gonna solve the problem, I know the math, we all get it. We get it.
It's just trying to
We get
understand
it,
the math.
we get it. As I said in the beginning, it's gonna help, it's not gonna solve the problem.
Right.
Hopefully will help.
Okay, Thanks, everybody. We're gonna move on with our agenda. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next order of business is the building renovation and training facility update.
Yes. Chief, well, we've all been to those meetings and it's moving forward down on Locust. Moving forward, as you're seeing, they're emptying out some stuff next door. We're gonna start emptying stuff out here. Chief says we've got the moving people coming by to get ready. Get this process
Getting
going.
to be crunch time. It's October. We're looking for, I'm gonna say December, but November, December.
They were saying
We're-
December 4th.
We're working with our radio vendor, the architect, to equip the communications room with a proper desk and with all the conduit in the right places and all that stuff, and making sure the drops are where they need to be, making sure we have the right equipment there. We were on a conference call with all the vendors last week for that. We're working with moving vendors tomorrow to identify what needs to go, and so they have an understanding of what's going from here over to there. Next week, we're working with a fencing vendor to cordon off an area in town to move our vehicles off-site from here. So everything's in motion. I've got a verbal agreement with Norwalk to house our overnight prisoners. Working with legal counsel to develop a memorandum of understanding between the two towns. That will likely have to be signed by first selectman and mayor, and that's it.
Yeah,
All-
they're also, they're gonna put a new conduit in over here for EMS, for their water and sewer. As they will for us here too. It's all being staged and Turner's on it, and we've got a owner's rep who's very, very good, and very knows the town real well, and it's moving, which is great.
Okay, next order of business is the college course approval for Lieutenant Milligan. He's getting his MBA at Post University. Can I get a motion to approve?
Sure, motion to approve.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we approve Milligan's tuition. The next order of business is the college course approval for Officer Vartuli.
Yep, motion to
She's
approve.
taking an online course for a master's in forensic accounting. Can I get a motion to approve?
Yes.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, approve the for Officer Vartuli's college course. We have our proposed meeting schedule for 2024. Are there any comments to that schedule?
Just one comment, with the move and temporary location, we're gonna have to find a new home. Jennifer's been working diligently on that with Flint Town Hall. We probably gonna be where at the town. Hall.
Probably definitely the town hall by the boardroom, or in the lower, main level across from the tax assessor's office. There's a smaller conference room,
Okay,
so.
so probably all the meetings next year will be
There, so
Sure,
not gonna be,
Right, somewhere
not gonna be
there.
here.
Yeah, yeah.
Starting in December this year.
Yeah, yeah,
Possibly, yeah.
yeah,
Hopefully.
okay. Any comments on the dates?
That's all.
All right, should we approve get a motion to approve
Sure.
the proposed schedule?
Yep, that's fine.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we approve the schedule as presented. We have a very nice chief. You want to tell us about the letter of appreciation we have?
Well, Deputy Chief Walsh wrote it, so let.
Okay.
Caught him off guard.
Yeah.
We had a great turnout for the Canaan Combine charity event. We had a lot of officers participate. Between Officer Cece and Coughlin organizing it, and then getting participants, and we had a good showing. And
It's for a great cause. Yeah, did a great job raising funds for the Gracie Fund for pediatric cancer, and big shout out to Officer Shane Jensen for winning the top individual male award of the day. So he represented the PD very well, and it was a great day. A lot of the public was there. They had their football announcer, and was a great event. Great event.
It is an election year, so a lot of politics were there, but the three of us were there and it was a hard event. I mean, it was,
It was
yeah,
hard.
it was not easy.
Yeah.
This was not.
We were
just a-
spectators, by the way.
Yeah.
This was not just a quick,
Right.
little fun event.
Yeah.
It was hard. So good on them for
Good.
participating.
Okay,
And so-
any other matters?
Yeah, I'd like to bring up one.
Sure.
Not to delay you guys too much, but, so I'm just Bennett's husband, Derek Bennett, and, I'm a inveterate sort of watcher of two-wheel traffic in town, a long time cyclist and whatnot, so I noticed things like this. I'm walking home from the high school, the other night, and, it was like a game, football game going on, and, it had started, so the roads were pretty much clear. And I see coming down towards me in the space of maybe 3 or 4 minutes. I believe I counted 7 of these new electric motorcycles. The kids, unhelmeted kids who I am pretty sure are 14 or less, driving along on that. And I noticed that that's like part of a larger movement towards personal mobility, electric vehicles in town. So there's electric scooters, there's a ton of electric bicycles around, electric one-wheelers, these things that look like skateboards, with one wheel in the middle, electric skateboards themselves. And it strikes me that the development of the electric powered mobility things, for lack of a really better term, e-mobility or personal mobility devices, has kind of gotten out ahead of both ordinance and enforcement. So I'm not really going to suggest ordinance to take care of it and new laws or anything, but I think that we have at least existing laws that we probably should apply with a little more vigor, especially to the kids, right? The number one problem that I see safety-wise arising from all this is inexperienced people or people with potentially very poor reaction times operating vehicles that are a lot more powerful than they seem to be. And that the electric motorcycles that the kids are being given, that falls right into that category. I think they are. It's very easy to get a kid into serious trouble with those type of vehicles. The super powerful skateboards are in the same category. And I think also in terms of reaching out into the community, the older people who are getting on board of these very powerful electric bicycles that may or may not have good governors on them, they need to be, there needs to be some kind of information that's put in front of them, like, hey, you probably don't have the reaction times or the balance to really keep control of this thing in the rain, snow, whatever challenging conditions they encounter, potholes, things like that. So I just wanted to bring it up because I see it as a problem that it's just starting to kind of inflect in town on the roadways of town. It hasn't looked like a problem until about now. Now it's starting to look like a problem.
Can I ask, what is the law on,
So-
when I was a kid, we grew up in the same hometown.
Yes.
And I think maybe twice in my whole childhood, we were really excited. Some guy would show up with a homemade gasoline. He took a lawnmower engine and he hooked it up to a bike and we thought like, wow, this is incredible. But he was always running from the cops. It'd be like, I guess it was illegal, right? To have something like that. So I guess it's legal to have
It's
these
not
motorbikes.
It's legal. They're.
Why was it illegal then? Now it's illegal.
Because that's gas motor powered and over a certain amount of CCs you need proper licensing and anything like that. And that's still applicable. Anything over it's 51 CCs.
Maybe the state should pass a law for electric, the same.
I'm getting there. So there's 3 classes of e-bikes. Class 1 is an e-bike that's pedal assisted motor.
Right.
That
I've seen
goes
those.
up to 20 miles per hour. Class 2 is throttle assisted 4 pedal, which I think is mostly what you're seeing. Because I see, probably the same kid every day screaming up South Ave. Looks like he's going fast, but he's on a bike, not pedaling.
Right.
Or, just kind of pedaling, but
Yeah.
still going
It's really the motor.
20 miles an hour. So the class 2 is throttle or throttle actuated up to 20 miles an hour. And then the class 3 is I think pedal assisted up to 28 miles per hour. 16, you're under 16, you're not allowed to operate a class 3. How you tell the difference from the naked eye, just seeing is if that's where the enforcement comes in.
And do the manufacturers make them to go to only that speed?
Yeah, that's what the standards are. Right?
So it's by law and they,
Can you modify them?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Take owners off? Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know enough
yeah.
about that, but they are taking off.
Even 20
Technology
can be
has
pretty
certainly
fast.
Was
outpaced.
that a helmet? Yeah.
Oh,
They
no
They
helmet.
are required to wear a helmet, all
Really?
classifications.
But-
I've also seen full-on electric motorcycles. Forget the brand name of it, it's like Sun Tube or something.
Yeah, then those are.
And it's just pegs and
Yeah,
and throttle and they're, kids, unhelmeted, kids who are definitely under 16 and unlicensed.
Yeah.
I think the best thing we can do now is, we've had the discussions with our school resource officers to start an awareness campaign with this, and we can work with our community impact officer as well to put that out on social media.
Yeah.
And get it out to, Facebook moms and get it out there. Start to build some awareness that these things are faster than a regular bike, they're more dangerous, Make sure at least that they're wearing helmets and following basic traffic law.
Right, right.
Definitely. We've been working on it and we will continue to do so vigorously.
Maybe reach out to the Gulf station as well, since they've started selling a few different types of electric scooter.
Well, the parents have to be buying them, right? Kid,
Yeah.
14-year-old's
That's
not
right.
coming in with $1,000 or whatever. The parents should be made more aware, and I don't know if we can get on social media.
well,
on it too.
to your point,
Right,
elderly people are, we can't legislate common sense,
No,
unfortunately.
no.
If we tell them to get off the e-bike, they're gonna get in their vehicles. I don't know, is that any better?
That's why I presented as mainly, there's some
We can't legislate common sense or good parenting, unfortunately.
there's some enforcement, like you shouldn't, 14-year-olds shouldn't be riding around motorcycles in the street. But the rest is, I think, all just outreach, like, hey.
Yeah.
Think before you ride.
Right, and they're also coming down Elm Street the wrong way too. I'm coming up Elm Street and the kids, 2 or 3 of them are coming down at me,
Yeah.
and it's getting near dusk.
it's gonna
You
be an
can't see 'em.
accident sooner or later.
There's no reflection, there's no light on them, it's.
And that's not proper. You
No.
can't take a bicycle against traffic.
Right.
Right, you gotta follow the law. So you have to follow the rules. There are statutes out there. that
Right,
apply to this.
right.
That really concern me.
But the one that I see every morning that's absolutely dangerous, it's this child going to the high school. So it's making a left turn from Jelliff Mill, going up. Under the railroad
trestle.
tracks. And then speeding on to where the high
On a
school is,
bicycle?
on a bicycle.
No.
Well, I have seen him, you know how it becomes steep? I have seen him get off. I mean, as the cars, there's barely any road to go under the bridge. And that's his commuting every day. And it's usually at about 7:35, 7:40 is when I see him every morning.
Like I said, we'll definitely reach out to the SROs. And where.
Thank you.
And downtown.
Yeah.
CC or whoever.
Yeah. Okay,
Pull them over.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
thank you. All right,
Oh, is Tiger still on? Hey, Tiger?
No,
Long gone? Okay.
sorry.
Yeah,
Next meeting.
next meeting. I'll call.
do we have anything for executive session, chief?
I do.
All right, I get a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a
Second.
second to adjourn.
Yeah.
All in favor, we are adjourned at